You know, most people think a great software company starts with some brilliant lightning-in-a-bottle idea. But what if I told you that the best ideas aren't planned at all? Today, we're going to dive into the story of how one company built an incredibly powerful e-commerce platform, not from a business plan, but because they had a huge problem on their own warehouse floor they absolutely had to solve. In this quote right here, it just nails it. KiipList wasn't born in a boardroom or from some fancy pitch deck. Nope, it was built out of pure necessity. We're talking too much inventory, not nearly enough time, and a business that was growing so fast it was literally about to break.
So you're probably asking, how in the world does an industrial company stumble into e-commerce? Well, it all starts with their main business and a customer problem they never saw coming.
Okay, so first, let's meet the main player here. EzKin. Their whole deal was industrial automation. They'd go in, take old, legacy equipment, and give it a full-blown modernization for better performance, better reliability, the whole shebang. Pretty standard stuff for an industrial company, right? Well, here's where the story takes a turn. Most of EzKin's customers were running on seriously ancient equipment. EzKin would push for these big, beautiful upgrades, but the customers just couldn't do it. Why? They couldn't afford the downtime. For them, stopping production for a long upgrade project was a total non-starter. So they just kept those old machines chugging along. And that problem, well, it accidentally created this incredible opportunity. Every time EzKin did do an upgrade, they were left with a pile of perfectly good used parts. Instead of just tossing them, they had a thought, hey, why don't we try selling these online? At first, it was just the leftovers, but then the light bulb really went off, and they started buying entire old machines just to strip them down and sell the valuable components.
And sales started small. I mean, really small. We're talking maybe $300 a week. It was basically a side hustle. Nothing to write home about. But then things started to click. Pretty soon, that little side hustle was pulling in $1,000 a week. It was obvious they'd found a real need in the market. But as they were about to learn the hard way, success brings its own set of massive problems.
And this is a huge turning point in the story. See, success isn't always a straight line up. For EzKin, their early wins in e-commerce created this monster bottleneck in their operations, one that was about to bring the whole thing to a screeching halt.
So at the time, their entire sales operation was on eBay, and it all depended on eBay's old, clunky desktop software. You know the kind I'm talking about. Uploading just one product with the photos, the specs, all the details, it was just painfully slow.
And you can see the disaster waiting to happen right here. They could only manage to list about 10 items a day. Meanwhile, inventory was just flooding in relentlessly. The shelves were overflowing. It became crystal clear that at this pace, their growth was about to hit a brick wall.
So what do you do when there's no tool out there that can solve your problem? Well, you've got one choice. You build your own, and that is exactly what they did.
This is the moment KiipList version 1.0 was born. But get this, it wasn't even called KiipList. Its internal name was Weight Control. Why? Simply because a ton of the equipment they were parting out came from these big industrial weight management systems. It was a purely practical name for a tool built out of pure desperation.
And this tool, it grew organically, just piece by painful piece, as they needed it. First, they bolted on inventory control. Then they needed purchasing and purchase orders. Then came order management. And finally, the big one, a deep integration with eBay to make everything faster. This wasn't a product idea, it was a survival tool. And that little survival tool didn't just fix their problem, it completely transformed their entire operation. It turned a slow, manual process into a high-speed, scalable platform that changed everything.
I mean, just look at this comparison. It's night and day. The old way, you had one person trying to do everything, and they'd maybe get 10 listings done. With their new software, they could create specialized roles. And the result? A mind-blowing jump to 200 listings every single day.
So how'd they do it? They turned the process into an assembly line. They broke it all down into specialized roles. You had one person who only cleaned and staged parts. Another person's entire job was to take pictures and enter dimensions. Data entry could even be done remotely. Then you had dedicated managers for listings and a totally separate crew for shipping. Each person did one thing, and they got incredibly fast at it.
Let that number sink in for a second. 200 products listed per day. That's a 20-fold increase in their productivity. This wasn't just a small tweak. This was a fundamental game changer for their business. And you've got to remember, we're not talking about cheap little trinkets here.
These were high-value, single-SKU industrial parts with massive profit margins, like 60 to 90%. And they were priced anywhere from $10 to $10,000. So that 20x increase in speed, it translated directly into a massive increase in revenue.
And here you go, a little peek at the tool that powered this whole transformation. This inventory hub became their command center. It went from being a simple way to track stuff to being a machine built for one thing: increasing production speed. That right there was the real secret to their growth.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, eventually EzKin spun off that whole repurposing business, and KiipList became its own standalone platform. But its origin story is exactly what makes it so powerful.
Today, KiipList lets any user do what EzKin perfected in their own warehouse. You can list your inventory one time and sync it everywhere. You can pull your orders directly from places like eBay, buy shipping labels in seconds, and track your entire operation from one single dashboard.
And the proof is in the pudding. The results for businesses that use the platform today are just clear as day. You can see from these metrics the impact of a tool that was forged in a real-world, high-pressure environment is just huge.
And that quote really says it all, doesn't it? KiipList wasn't built in some theoretical vacuum by developers who were just guessing what a business might need. It was built on a real warehouse floor, with real inventory piling up and real deadlines breathing down their necks. That's why it works. It's not theory. It's a tool built for reality, by people who actually ship boxes.